mean, read books, don't get me wrong, but like, where are you getting information? Humans, right? With experience that can give other perspectives. So yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So I've been doing a lot of research on dominant behaviors versus non-dominant behaviors. So dominant from a individualistic approach. So your traditional, here's a worksheet, work on the worksheet quietly at your desk,
Yeah.
versus someone from a collective or communal background might prefer working in teams, or they might come from a, we just all pitch in together and get the job done. So traditional classrooms often lean heavier towards the individual work. Maybe there's some competition. Maybe there's, again, here, do this on your own, work silently, work quietly. So what I'm hearing is this, for example, the drone technology and working with students and coding, this is kind of, it goes against what traditional forms of teaching and experiences we tend to see.
What's funny is we get a lot of calls from like significant drone, like our drone is an education drone, okay, that has a lot of firepower, maybe the wrong choice of words there, has a lot of power behind it in terms of sensors and whatnot. There's no firepower in the other way. No, but what I mean is like, there is absolutely a need, a requirement, a time for individualized upskilling. Like, not all, if it's for individuals, the mechanic, the coder, they're not all going to achieve the same things in life because they're different people. They have different interests, different capabilities, different brains, of course. But so in learning, in an education setting, absolutely have people around you, especially at the younger grades, maybe K through 12 kind of. Maybe in the higher ed, you could kind of give more individualized. I mean, Hopper, our drone, can go very, very, very deep into multiple languages and all that, but it's really, we're K through 12, so there's a basics level as well. If you are teaching this social, emotional, and community and collaborate, if you're teaching that, it's automatic. Yeah. And then there can become and should become time, or throughout this time as well, individual excellence of study and experience and learning in one or several particular areas, that when you join back a group, you have even more to add to this collective intelligence. If someone who goes through Bill of Flight code throughout their education and becomes a drone pilot, that's wonderful. But for us, it is nothing to do with that. It's all about just awakening interest in all of these areas. And you'd absolutely want, I mean, who didn't? I did run down specific areas of excellence, or attempt to run down specific areas of excellence to make myself more valuable in those situations.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's open this up on a more broader scheme. So for those in general, what tips could you give? And it doesn't necessarily have to be STEM related, folks.
Sure.
But just in general, when it comes to group work, let's just call it group work. So there's a project. What tips could you give out to individuals who are looking to provide more of collaborative activities? What are some things maybe they should be aware of, look out for, consider maybe, and then as the project or activity is going along, that they should be maybe checking in on? What kind of strategies could you give in these settings?
It's said a lot. It was actually said on a recent podcast, one of your guests with you. It was you guys kind of branched off on a conversation about failure. And like, number one, fail, but fail fast and learn. Stop, start, and continue. Those kinds of things that are important. I would say right out of the gate, just be okay with it not working, because you just figure out a way it doesn't work. That's one less you have to figure out that doesn't work. But second to that, I would say, listen. Like, that should be a major, right? That should be a subject in school. Listen. You cannot be a learner if you do not listen. And like, put your judgment aside, put your bias aside. And I'm not saying listen to the other side of an argument. I'm not saying that. I mean, I'm saying that too. But what I mean is, like, in our company, I will speak by giving an example. I always am the one for the younger people in the company. Like, what about you? What are you thinking? Like, I don't say it. If it's bad, we will laugh at you, because I've been laughed at when I had a bad idea. But we love you, and we're not really laughing at you. But talk, because you're 20 years younger than me. So listen, do that and listen, because that's learning. Even if you learn something about someone's ideas that you don't necessarily agree with, give yourself a chance. Give it a chance. You're 50% of the chance, 50% of the time, you're probably wrong by dismissing them. You're probably missing it. And so you'll eventually get to the point in your life where you're old enough to know you're embarrassed by doing something like that. I think it's just and transparency, leave the ego at the door and be humble. Who cares how great you are? What's going to be great that we measure your greatness by is what you do in this setting. And I would say also read what is that? I can't remember the name of the book. It's a really great book on emotional intelligence, where it's like that moment where you just want to like either overtalk someone's idea or you want to just jump in, literally cover your mouth, like, and think about it for a second. Let it breathe. Take the emotion out of your anger that person said something really smart, and you're gonna want to like that. Stop that. I think it's really setting the table for humility, kindness for people to, and because that's going to get you to have the most inputs into this collaboration, if you will.
Don't be afraid to fail. Transparency, listen. I mean, I think all of those are some great tools to do. If I'm a teacher, project leader, whatever it is, and I am facilitating these activities, this group work, and allowing the kids to learn from students. This is a project. However, how do I learn? Well, I have to listen. I think that right there was one of the mic drops, if you will, in today's conversation. I'll say this, Rob. I thoroughly have enjoyed our conversation. I've learned a lot, especially when it comes to STEM and soft skills and just kind of learning about the things that you're doing as well on the professional side. And again, folks, we have links in the show notes that will be there. But Rob, I'd love for you to take us home with your final words of advice.
The other area that we get a little prickly about is this all students thing. And yeah, it may be in vogue now to be focusing on real world problems in classrooms, but like you and I spoke to Sheldon at the beginning before we hit record, it's really important that not only we lean in towards those areas we discussed earlier in this podcast, but some of these real world problems, classrooms, special needs, low income, there's a zillion different real world problems that educators and students and schools deal with. But I'm telling you, by not only the experience we're having at this company, like we're charging hard into some of these, as many of these special areas as we can, but it is as important to include those that may not be necessarily exactly like you, situationally, physically, mentally. But I can tell you firsthand experience with our team, some of those students are like, they're going to change the world. And we have to make sure they get these resources just like anybody else.
There you go. If we got some folks that want to connect with you, what's the best way to reach you online?
I'm not in social media, but I do use LinkedIn really to find employees. But we also like to talk because there's a lot of great people on LinkedIn in our space. I'm on LinkedIn, the team's on LinkedIn. So the company has a LinkedIn, but for fun, I would say I would also recommend going on Instagram and finding FTW_Hopper, because our drone Hopper, although Hopper hasn't posted yet, but this is going to be the singular vehicle that Hopper, our drone, will be communicating customers and clients, but the world. That'll be a really great one. It's also going to focus on our work, show our work or the work. So I would just recommend, if you're an educator, for sure, it would be something you'd want to check out. But yeah, hit us up anytime. You can find us on our website, ftw-robotics.com, or just call us. Honestly, we call ourselves as high touch as desired, and we want to hear from you. We want to talk to you, even if it's just collaboration and not a penny of transaction. We're not a motivated by money company.
All right. Well, thank you again, Rob. It has truly been a pleasure. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Sheldon.